Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Leo Villanueva, joined by
Jonathan Mesa.
Today we're talking about horror films. Prior to
Talking about mainstream horror films and how they've changed in the way they've been production has changed and how they're adding unnecessary jump scares more just to get the audience to go instead of really diving down to what really is scary about the film. Let's give an example. A really bad horror film you've watched. You were just not even scary. You saw the monster, but you were just not scared.
The Conjuring, for instance.
Which one? The very first one?
All of them.
All of them.
They're great. They are great stories, but I was watching those films with the hope that I was going to be frightened and go to bed like I did when I was a young boy with frightening dreams, and I didn't have that experience. It was all too realistic.
Yeah.
It wasn't that crazy
like the
Scream.
Annabelle,
Like for instance,
the Annabelle
Scream.
remake.
That's the same. Yeah,
I didn't get it. They made the doll so creepy just for people to go to the theater and just go, oh, there's a doll. Ah, it's scary.
And that goes back to our earlier discussion regarding what is true horror. What is a true horror film? What is the true classification of a horror film? And for me personally, I believe that a true horror flick involves jump scares.
Yeah.
So I'm just when I'm watching a horror film, I'm just waiting for the next jump scare. I'm not truly interested in content.
That's the thing, though. That's what people have been conditioned to expect at a horror movie is just to be jump scared at the good parts and then that's it. But the more they do that, people just end up realizing, oh, it's just a random jump scare. Oh, I'm supposed to get scared. And then by the end of the movie, when it's supposed to be really scary, it's not anymore. You're just like,
Well, we have become desensitized. And probably the only thing that would truly get me is actually being stabbed in the neck while I'm at the theater watching a movie or something. That's the ultimate jump scare, I would imagine. But I was watching. It's October, so I'm trying to get in as many horror flicks as I possibly can.
Yep.
And so I'm going through this menu. Horror film menu, and I'm looking for something. So I click on this movie, and I'm using Kodi. So if you pick a movie and you wait for that thing to load up, you're stuck with that movie. You might as well just keep watching it. So I picked this flick. I think it was called Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. And when I saw the names when I saw a particular name pop up on the screen, I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is another, what's that movie, 100,000 Maniacs, or what's that one?
1,000 Ways to Die?
No, it's that one. No. It's about a town with a bunch of maniacs. Anyways, it's Freddy Krueger. It's a Freddy Krueger film. Anyways, I started watching this film. It looked like somebody was doing it with their phone or their camcorder, and I was truly blown away. It has become one of my all-time favorite horror flicks, and I didn't involve all the jump scare stuff, which I look for when I'm watching a horror film. Right? I just explained that to you. Now I have this new appreciation for this. Where there's a plot and it's building up to something.
Puzzle twist too. That's something.
Oh yeah.
Talk about puzzle twist.
It did have a bit of a twist in it.
Cool horror movies I watched was the Saw 2 movie, and I think that one it can make you cringe and just edge off because of the very violence and all the blood and all the gore in that movie just makes you sit back and go ugh. But at the same time they leave you with a plot twist because then towards the end of the movie you're just like what? No way. That's just that's master of the mind or whatever, kind of
I love
thing.
Saw.
You're just whoa.
I love Saw, but
I think that's good horror. Also, I know they do sequels and they try to make them even better, but some of them aren't as good as the originals. But at the same time, some sequels come out really good. I personally like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel. That one was pretty good. Some people hated it.
When I was a kid, the original was just nuts.
It was. The originals were good too, but then the sequel at the end, you're rooting for the killer,
We had
It was kind of
hitchhiking.
weird.
We hitchhiked when I was younger. We hitchhiked.
Just
So the
it's
Chainsaw
like,
Massacre was
yeah,
it was a really frightening movie.
yeah.
What comes to mind, good suspenseful horror flicks like The Ring, The Grudge. Those are actually pretty good flicks. Those aren't American classics; those are foreign
Right.
classics remade. So I can
Have you heard
appreciate
of this Australian film called The Babadook? Apparently, that one's
Oh, The
really,
Babadook.
really, yeah,
Oh my God, I love that film too.
yeah. I haven't seen
But
it yet.
see
Do you
that
recommend it or what?
I absolutely recommend it. But these are films that I don't actually. These are films that I don't necessarily classify as horror flicks.
You don't?
Not personally, no, because I
There's
grew up with. For me, horror was just it was that jump scare
Yeah.
thing. I grew up with 3D glasses that we bought. I grew up watching Elvira, movie macabre. And they were just really stupid horror flicks. And sometimes they would be in 3D, so we'd go down to the local 7-Eleven or something and buy 3D glasses and sit together and watch it with home popcorn, stuff like that. So these horror flicks are actually, they were relevant to my time, the ones that I'm familiar with that are being remade, a lot of the ones that are being remade now.
Yeah.
But
But,
they're the horror flick
the horror genre.
genre is morphing. It's becoming much more than it was. Involves more thought, less
So many
jump scare.
subgenres too, right? Like there's slashers, there's psychological horrors, there's what else?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
There's so
I
many,
think
like,
that the
subgenres,
definition
so
of horror flick now
it's
is broadened.
wide, yeah.
So
Right.
I'm not going to make
Supernatural
an
horror
attempt to
flicks. Because
define
even
it.
like sci-fi horror flicks get pretty crazy too. The
Yeah,
alien,
yeah.
and there's just
So,
so much out there that the mind.
So my recommendation, if you want to see a good horror flick for October, is Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Great horror flick. That's all the time we have for this session. Thank you for joining us. I'm Leo Villanueva.
And Jonathan Mesa.